Hello everyone and welcome. Today, we're going to do something really cool. We're cracking open some ancient stories to see what they can tell us about our world, right here, right now. Okay, let's just dive right in.
So let's start with a kind of a wild question. What on earth can a centuries-old piece of folklore from the mangrove forests of Bengal possibly have to say about melting ice caps and rising sea levels?
Well, the answer is a lot more than you'd probably think. And to really get how, we need to open up what I like to call a literary toolbox, a set of really powerful ideas that help us decode the meanings hidden deep inside stories.
The story we're going to be looking at today comes from the novel Gun Island by Amitav Ghosh. It's just a fantastic example of how a writer can grab an old myth and make it feel completely urgent for our time.
Now, this is where it gets really clever. Ghosh weaves together three totally different layers of time. So you've got the foundation, right? That's this ancient Bengali myth about the goddess Mansa Devi. Then, on top of that, he builds a new layer, this invented history of a merchant from the 17th century. And finally, he drops a modern character into a journey that mirrors both of those older stories, but it's all happening against the backdrop of our climate crisis. It's like one single story echoing across hundreds of years.
So, let's reach into our toolbox and pull out tool number 1. This one helps us understand where myths even come from in the first place. And the idea is actually pretty simple. First comes the action, the ritual. Then comes the story to explain why we do it. And it all starts with this amazing concept from the sociologist Emil Durkheim. He called it collective effervescence. Have you ever been at a concert or a huge sporting event where everyone is just completely in sync, singing the same song, cheering for the same team? That electric feeling, that buzz of being part of something bigger than just you? That's collective effervescence, and it's the energy that powers these big group rituals.
So, picture this. A community is performing some ritual. Maybe they've been doing it for generations. They just do it. But sooner or later, some curious kid is going to ask, why are we doing this? And that question, that why, is the spark. That's when a story, a myth, is born, to rush in and provide the answer.
And here's how this plays out in the novel, which is just genius. Back then, the story of Mansa Devi explained why people performed these rituals and pilgrimages. You had to do it to appease an angry goddess. If you didn't, her wrath, poisonous snakes, disasters would get you. But now, Ghosh flips the script. The story isn't really about a specific goddess anymore. It's about fleeing the anger of nature itself. The wrath isn't snakes, it's wildfires, superstorms, and mass migration. Same story structure, totally new meaning.
Okay, time for tool number 2, functionalism. This one isn't so much about where myths come from, but about what they do. Like, what is a myth's actual job in a society? Because according to this theory, myths are way more than just bedtime stories. They are serious business. Their job is to glue a community together with shared beliefs. They're there to justify cultural rules, to say, this is why we do things this way. And they give everyone a shared map for how the universe works. They serve a real, practical purpose.
Which of course brings us right back to our story. If Ghosh is retelling this ancient myth for today, what new job is he giving it? What's its modern function?
And the answer really is pretty huge. The myth's new purpose is to help build a brand new kind of global community, one that's not based on nation or religion, but on a shared need to care for our planet. Its job is to make a new cultural norm feel right and necessary, one where we respect nature instead of just trying to dominate it.
All right, our third and final tool is called structuralism. Now, bear with me, because this one gets a little more abstract, but it's super cool once you see it. This approach says the real meaning of a story isn't in the plot at all. It's in a hidden code, buried underneath. So if you're using this tool, you basically throw the plot out the window. Seriously, who goes where, what happens next? You don't really care about that. What you're looking for are the deep, fundamental building blocks of the story, these hidden pairs of opposite ideas. It's like finding the skeleton that holds the whole narrative together. And this is the hidden code inside Gun Island. The entire novel is built around this fundamental conflict between two ways of seeing the world, the West versus the East. The West is framed as rational, scientific, analytical, but also, and this is key, it's human-centered. It's all about us. The East, on the other hand, is presented as intuitional, holistic, and nature-centered. And the whole tension and ultimately the meaning of the book comes from the clash between these two worldviews.
So, we've gone through all these different tools and theories, but so what?
why does any of this really matter? What's the big takeaway here? Well, here's the bottom line. Myths are not just dusty old relics you put in a museum. They are alive. They're living, breathing stories. They're like these amazing, adaptable tools that we can pick up and use to help us figure out our biggest, most tangled modern problems, from the climate crisis to global migration.
You know, the academic paper that inspired this whole explainer puts it perfectly. It says we have to apply new hermeneutics, which is just a fancy way of saying new ways of interpreting things, so we can tell a story that makes sense and is useful to people living today.
And that really leaves us with one last, kind of powerful idea. The stories we are telling right now, in our movies, in our books, even in conversations like this one, these are the myths that future generations are going to inherit.
So I'll just leave you with this to chew on. What are the stories we're telling right now about our relationship with the planet, with technology, and with each other? What myths are we writing today? Thanks for joining me.